my diamond art friends, my name is Ilene and welcome to my channel. If you are new to my channel, welcome, and if you are returning, thank you for your continued support and friendship. Today is Thursday, February 20th. For updates on like my personal stuff, my pop is still in the hospital. I'll give you that story once it's all sorted out. Hopefully, he'll be coming home in a couple days. We're just waiting for some test results to find out next steps for him. So once that's excuse me, been sorted out, I will give an update. I won't give a lot of the nitty-gritty details, but I will give an update. Just the update is my wonderful Pops is still vacationing. I don't think he'd call it a vacation at the hospital. Yeah. Luckily for my mom and I, one of my sisters will be flying in on Monday. Originally was so that they could all go back to New York. But obviously maybe that my parents will not be able to go back when they planned, which is okay. But she's still coming down anyway, which will be really helpful for her anxious younger sister who... I think I've done a pretty decent job with everything. It's just, I'm not used to having to because before my sisters always did when things happened when they were down here. Not that I couldn't do it. It was just easier to let them do it. Right? And I got to be whatever way I needed to be. But anyway, that's not what this video is for. I'm going to do a whip and chat. This one is going to be a follow-up to my earlier whip and chat on some notable people of color. I found the last half of that list that I had printed out, and then I wanted to complete it because it still is February, which is Black History Month. And we need to celebrate people, and our differences and like what makes us all kind of great, but also noting that there are certain groups of people that have had to fight for their rights harder than others. And we should celebrate them, and we should absolutely all be on board with having a month of celebration for people of color. Anyway, so I found 18 through 31, and then once I finish that, I will close out. I am going to be reading the Dr. Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, which he, of course, gave at the March of Washington in 1963. And anyway, I don't know if I have the whole speech or just some excerpts, but whatever. Anyway, let me go ahead and get the question marks poured out into my ephemera 3D tray. And we'll get started. I'm using my pen from True Vampire Art, from her pink and black filament. I have fallen in love with this pen, Mins. I just love how lightweight it is, so well made. If you haven't checked out her shop, she is on Etsy. She is also True Vampire Crafts here on YouTube, and she's just amazing. Excuse my nails. They're not even going to be a worried about thing until after my dad is on the mend. I needed them done. Some of them started to break. Anyways, probably from me picking at them because I got nervous. My anxiety was going, you know. Anyway, all right. So and I can also, when I go and give an update later on, kind of update you on some other things going on in the world of Ilene. Nothing too dramatic, but we'll do that. Let's go ahead and start, though, with now on to number 18 of our notable people of color that we might not have heard about. Number 18 is Mae Jemison, and she was born in 1956. Let me just move this closer because I took my glasses off and move the tweezers. I wasn't prepared like usual. Anyway, Mae Jemison isn't just the first African-American woman who orbited into space aboard the Space Shuttle Endeavour. She's also a physician, a teacher, and Peace Corps volunteer. After her work with NASA, she founded the Jemison Group, which developed scientific and technological advancements. Jemison continues to work toward helping young women of color get more involved in technology, engineering, and math careers. Wow, that's fabulous. I've heard of her before, so when I saw her face, I'm like, I know that face. They actually have photos with this article. Very, very, very cool. And a very aspiring human. Marian Anderson is number 19, born 1897, passed away in 1993. A couple drills down. Though she's considered one of the greatest contralto singers in the world, Anderson was often denied the opportunity to show off her unique vocal range because of her race. However, in 1955, she became the first African American to perform at the Metropolitan Opera. And in 1957, she went on to a 12-nation tour sponsored by the Department of State and the American National Theater and Academy. She documented the experience in her autobiography, My Lord, What a Morning. In 1963, she was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, her last major accomplishment before her death was receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award at the Grammys in 1993. Let's get a couple more of these. Number 20, Rosemarie McCoy, born 1922 and passed away in 2015. McCoy's name may not be instantly recognizable, but she wrote and produced some of the biggest pop songs in the 1950s. In an industry dominated by white males, McCoy was able to make her mark through her pen, even if she couldn't through her own voice. Her song, After All, and Gabon Blues never quite took off on the charts, but she was courted by musical labels to write for other artists, including hit singles for Big Maybelline, Elvis Presley, and Joe Turner. So now when you hear Elvis's Trying to Get You, you'll remember, oop, I missed that. When you hear Elvis's Trying to Get You, you'll remember the name of the African American woman who wrote it. All right, let's get a couple of these. I don't know. Okay, number 21, Phyllis Wheatley, 1753 until 1784. This West African-born poet spent most of her lifetime enslaved. Working for John Wheatley and his wife as a servant in the mid-1700s. Despite never having received a formal education, Wheatley became the first African American to publish a book of poems on various subjects. However, she died before securing a publisher for her second volume of poetry and letters. You can see the monument erected of her at the Boston Women's Memorial. In 2023, a University Albany professor discovered a new Wheatley poem on the death of the love roached, which is now considered her first full-length elegy. All right, shaking these out and go a little bit more. 22, Alvin Ailey, born 1931 and died in 1989. Ailey was an acclaimed dancer and choreographer who earned global recognition for his impact on modern dance. After honing his technique at the Lester Horton Dance Theater, and acting as its director after Horton passed away, Ailey wished to choreograph his own ballet and works. I need to fix this paper, which differed from the traditional pieces of the time. That's good enough for now. This inspired him to start the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater in 1958. A multiracial troupe that provided a platform for talented black dancers and traveled around the world. His most popular piece, Revelations, is an ode to the Southern Black Church. Ailey died of AIDS at 58, but his company lives on in New York City. Number 23, Ella Baker. All right, well, I just lost my train of thought, so give me a second. Good grief. All right. Number 23 is Ella Baker, born 1903 and passed away in 1986. Sorry, my brain, I don't even know where it went just then. It was like I daydreamed there for a second. All right, let's go. No getting distracted, Ilene. Let's do this. All right, so Baker was an essential activist during the Civil Rights Movement. She was a field secretary and a branch director for the NAACP and co-founded an organization that raised money to fight Jim Crow laws. Additionally, Baker was a key organizer for Martin Luther King Jr.'s Southern Christian Leadership Conference. But what was perhaps her biggest contribution to the movement was the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, which prioritized nonviolent protests, assisted in organizing in 1961 freedom rides, and aided in registering Black voters. The Ella Baker Center for Human Rights exists today to carry on her legacy. Number 24, Benjamin O. Davis Sr., born 1877 and passed away in 1970. Benjamin O. Davis Sr. was the first Black general in the U.S. Army. He served for 50 years, beginning as a temporary first lieutenant during the Spanish-American War. Throughout his career, Davis was a professor of military science at Tuskegee and Wilberforce University, commander of the 369th Infantry of the New York National Guard, and special assistant to the commanding general, among other positions. He received the Bronze Star and the Distinguished Service Medal and is buried at Arlington National Cemetery. Such an honor for people that are buried there. My brother-in-law, who served 20 some years in the Air Force and retired from the Air Force, when he passed away in 2021, we were able to inter his ashes have his ashes buried at Arlington in 2022. So, or 23. Gosh, all those years seemed like they've mushed together, but yeah. It is such an honor. And then if any of you have ever been to Arlington, I would really just encourage you to go. And then if you can, pay or whatever to ride the tram around, where they take you to like different sites where like presidents are buried and just notable military folks. And also, if you ever have the chance to see the changing of the guard at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldiers, you should do that. It's extremely moving, and it really does kind of put into perspective what this country is supposed to be about. And yeah, I would just say, if you haven't gone and you ever get a chance to visit Arlington National Cemetery in Washington, that you do so. Anyway, all right, so let's go to 25. 25 is Henrietta Lacks, born 1920 and passed away in 1951. After being diagnosed with cervical cancer at the Johns Hopkins Hospital in 1950, a sample of Lack's cancer cells were taken without her consent by a researcher. Oh, shoot. There we go. And though she succumbed to the disease at the age of 31 that same year, her cells would go on to advance medicine and medical research for years to come. As they had the unique ability to double every 20 to 40. Wait, let me read that again. Go on to advance medical research for years to come, as they had the unique ability to double every 20 to 24 hours. There we go. Hope if I could get my words out. Okay. They had been used to test the effects of radiation and poisons, to study the human genome, and to learn more about how viruses work. And they played a crucial role in the development of the polio vaccine. Wow. I'm not done though. There's still more to read about. John Hopkins said, in 2017, Oprah starred in and executive produced HBO's The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, adapted from the book by Rebecca Skloot. S-K-L-O-O-T is her last name. Very interesting. I like medical facts anyway. As a nurse, I always find that fascinating. Number 26, Dr. Rebecca Lee Crumpler, 1831 to 1895. Rebecca Lee Crumpler was the first Black woman to earn a medical degree in the United States. After attending the prestigious Massachusetts private school, West Newton English and Classical School, she worked as a nurse for 8 years. and applied to medical school in 1860 at the New England Female Medical College, which later merged with Boston University. She was accepted and graduated 4 years later. Though little is known of her career, PBS reported that she worked as a physician for the Freedmen's Bureau of the state of Virginia. She later practiced in Boston's predominantly black neighborhood at the time, Beacon Hill, and published a book of medical discourses in 2 parts. It's interesting. Mm-hmm. There we go. I'm going to take a quick sip of water and go to the next one. All right. I'm trying to drink more water. I've been like living on caffeine, which is not good, as we know. Oh, right. 27, Anne Lowell, 1898 to 1981. Born in Clayton, Alabama, Anne Lowe is considered to be one of America's most influential clothing designers. She was taught to sew at an early age by her mother and grandmother, both skilled dressmakers who created clothes for wealthy white families around the state. Lowe quickly took to collecting fabric scraps, which she used to create flowers fashioned after the ones in her family's garden. Patterns that later became a part of her signature designs. Her career took off after she accepted a position as an in-house gown maker in Florida, then completed design school in New York City. Lowe established a shop in Tampa, Florida, where she hired 18 seamstresses, in addition to designs that showed up in Vogue and at Academy Awards show. One of Lowe's most historic pieces of work was the wedding dress Jacqueline Bouvier wore when she married then Senator and later President John F. Kennedy. Oh, very cool. See if I think I got all those. I probably missed some of those, but that's okay. All right, I'm gonna put these away, and then we're gonna go to 28. Six. Okay. Okay. Number 28, Audre Lorde, 1934 to 1992. Audre Lorde was a lauded writer and poet known for her radical honesty and fight against racism and sexism. Self-described as a Black lesbian mother warrior poet, Lorde wrote often about the intersections of her identities. One too many there. Let's finish this little part here. After earning both a BA at Hunter's College and a master's from Columbia University, Lorde spent the 1960s working as a librarian in New York. In the 1970s, she worked as a poet in residence at Tullogolo College in Mississippi and began publishing poetry collections. The works were informed by the intersections of race, class, and gender and became increasingly more political. Some of her most famous works are The Master's Tools Won't Dismantle the Master's House and Martha. Lorde passed away in 1992. Her first full biography, Warrior Poet, was published by Alexis DeVaux in 2006. I think I got all those. We'll go to number 2. Get number 2s out. Okay, start these and then we'll get to the next one. Okay, so number 29 is Gil Scott Heron, 1949 to 2011. Gil Scott Heron was a New York City-based writer, spoken word performer and poet, and musician who wrote 1970 songs that were known for laying the background for rap music. If you've heard the phrase, "the revolution will not be televised," you have heard the words of Gil Scott Heron. While both true and timeless, it's the title of Scott Heron's poem that depicted the disconnected relationship between television and media representation and demonstrations in the streets. He has been called the godfather of rap, and his music and words have been sampled by rappers like Common and Kendrick Lamar. I absolutely enjoyed his Super Bowl performance. Anyway. It was awesome. All right, anyways, even if you haven't heard of him, his works may sound more familiar than you think. One of his most famous pieces, Whitey on the Moon, is where he criticizes America's interest in space taking precedent over the well-being of African American citizens. All right, let me get our next number. Let's do... I'll grab G. Couple of these pop down. So number 30 is Frederick McKinley Jones, born 1893, passed away in 1961. Frederick McKinley Jones was orphaned at a young age and raised by his Catholic priest until he dropped out of school at age 11. After a range of odd jobs, he became a janitor in the auto industry, eventually starting work as an auto mechanic, teaching himself electronics until he was drafted in World War I. After the war, Jones returned to working on and inventing machines, building a transmitter for his town's new radio system in the process. He also invented a system that overlaid sound and motion in pictures. From this time, he was hired to develop sound equipment for the movie industry. One day while driving, he thought up an idea of a system that could keep perishable food cool and fresh while in the car. This idea led to a patent, one of an eventual 60-some patents, for a vehicular refrigeration system. Not only did his idea change how we look at seasonal foods, but also the medical industry and transportation of life-saving supplies such as blood and medicines. Again, a very cool thing to learn. I learned that today. I didn't know this gentleman did that. I heard the name before. So, all right. And then our last person of color that we may not have heard about is number 31, Gerald Wilson, 1918 to 2014. Let's see if I got all the G's. I think so. You think so? I think I'll do the ones and then we'll be good there. All right, so let's see. Born in Shelby, Mississippi, Gerald Wilson was a trumpeter, jazz composer, arranger, and band leader known for redefining big band. He began taking piano lessons from his mother before taking formal lessons in Memphis. His family moved to Detroit around 1932, where he extended his training where he extended his training at the lauded music program at Cass Technical High School. Known for his unique voice, the hallmark of Wilson's sound involved the use of multiple harmonicas. I don't see any more ones. All right, anyway, we're going to finish this part up. His band was considered to be one of the greatest in the jazz world, with the sound heavily influenced by the blues, mixed with other styles. His work has influenced artists ranging from Duke Ellington to Ella Fitzgerald. All right, so those are the rest of the 31 people of color that we may not have ever heard about that absolutely influenced not only their communities, but so many of us. So what I'm going to do right now is I am going to quietly diamond paint, and then I'm going to do a voiceover where I'm reading some excerpts from Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. So that's gonna be my video, of course. I'll do the outro then. Just I will put 5 keywords in if you're playing along for the quote that I'm doing this month. I'm trying to get it done so that I'm not worried about it. So yeah, anyway, I hope you enjoy some of these excerpts from the I Have a Dream speech. I Have a Dream speech by Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. at the March on Washington, 1963. I am happy to join you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. 50 years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today, signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree is a great beacon of light, of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flame of withering injustice. It came as joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still badly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languished in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land. So we've come here today to dramatize a shameful condition. In a sense, we've come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of the Republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. This note was a promise that all men's, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable right of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protest to degenerate into physical violence. The marvelous new militancy which was engulfed the Negro community must not lead us to distrust all white people. For many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied with our destiny. We cannot walk alone. And as we walk, we must make the pledge that we shall always march ahead. We cannot turn back. There are those who are asking the devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro is the victim of unspeakable horrors of police brutality. We can never be satisfied as long as our bodies, heavy with fatigue of travel, cannot gain lodging in motels of the highway and hotels of the cities. We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro's basic mobility is from a smaller ghetto to a larger one. We can never be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their adulthoods and robbed of their dignity by signs stating "for whites only." We cannot be satisfied as long as Negro in Mississippi cannot vote and a Negro in New York believes he has nothing for which to vote. No, we are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream. I say to you today, my friends, even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It's a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. I have a dream one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will still be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. I have a dream. I have a dream that one day in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, one day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and little white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. This will be the day when all God's children will be able to sing with new meaning, "My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of pilgrims' pride, from every mountain side, let freedom ring." And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. So let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring to the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the heightened Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the curvaceous slopes of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain, Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain, Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and every molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring. When we allow freedom to ring, we let it ring from every city and every hamlet, from every state and every city. We will be able to speed up that day when all God's children, black men, white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, "Free at last, free at last. Great God Almighty, we are free at last." What a lovely speech. And that fight still lives on today. And I, for one, will always stand with the people in that community. That is going to be my video. So please like and comment. And as always, have yourself a nice day or night, whatever it is for you. Take care. Happy diamond painting. And until my next video, bye.